We're joined by Muda Yusuf, who is the Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
My colleague there started off with saying it's been a long time coming, but the National Assembly finally made public their budget. That action alone, they say, is historic, but what do you think that does to all of those agitation about open National Assembly?
I think it's a good development. That the National Assembly decided to respond to the clamor for more openness and transparency in the conduct of its affairs, especially from the point of view of its budget. At least that will provide a basis, at least for further engagement. Because the whole essence of this disclosure is for the citizens and stakeholders in the country to be able to engage the National Assembly, just as you have been engaging the executive, because the executive's budget is fully disclosed. And when you talk about also disclosure, it's not just limited to the National Assembly. All the agencies listed under the statutory transfers, there are no disclosure. National Assembly is one of them. You have the National Judicial Council, you have Universal Basic Education, you have NDDC. All those budget heads under statutory transfer should be fully disclosed. I mean, there is nothing sacrosanct about them. If you can have full disclosure even for defense, why should we not have disclosure for all those agencies under statutory transfers?
Because I think National Assembly say that, I think that they are eventually going to release the line items as well of their own budget. So these other agencies will have absolutely no excuse.
They will not.
Anyone who approaches them, they have to disclose their budget.
No, it's not even approaching. I mean, the one for the federal government is on the website. I mean, this started with the Jonathan administration under Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And I remember her saying at that time that the essence of disclosing this is for the citizens to see how their monies have been spent. And for the citizens to be able to engage the government. That is the essence of it.
Does this in any way speak to the question that has always been in the front burner about the National Assembly saying that perhaps if you bring out your budgets and lay it out bare, it will stop the corruption that is being perceived as going on in there? Will this address that?
It will, to some extent. At least if you have details of how they appropriate the funds. There have been stories about their salaries. There have been stories about how much. I mean, look at in this presentation now. They talk about 9 billion for legislative aids. We need to know what kind of legislative aids are taking 9 billion naira annually. You know, by the time we begin to see this breakdown, because the beauty of democracy lies in the quality of engagement, to the extent to which the citizens hold their leaders accountable. And this is something that we should also engage the state government to also replicate.
And that's where I was going next.
Yes.
Because having seen the National Assembly publish theirs, the states, that's a big part of this whole equation, because that's where a lot of these projects are executed.
Of course.
And it turns out that there isn't we don't have so much focus on them. So with this, we should have them also.
We should have, because I don't know of any states that disclose as much information as the federal government is disclosing as far as the budget is concerned. What we see in most cases are just summaries of, okay, we are going to do roads, this ministry is this amount, that is all. And that is not good enough for transparency and for proper engagement. So we should not just be focusing only at the federal. We should also be looking at the states. And in any case, when we talk about budget, there is this mindset that it's as if the federal budget will solve all problems. Yes. There's a lot of discussion about, but we hardly discuss the state budgets. And a lot happens at the state level. Nobody even talks about local government budgets. They also have their budget.
Let's still talk about the National Assembly budget and that point you just made reference to for the legislative aids getting a budget of 9.6 billion naira. You would like to see a further analysis or breakdown of that 9.6 billion naira perhaps?
Of course.
If that happens, would you what are your expectations? Would you want to see a situation whereby, okay, XYZ staff of a particular senator, for instance, is being paid so-so, or the office of that senator is spending this much on paper, or this much on buying computers. So what are your expectations?
You see, the whole idea of this is to open it to further scrutiny. If you say you engage legislative aid and you are given X million, for instance, it would be nice to even see who the legislative aid is. It would be nice to see where the office is. It would be nice to see your constituency, all these things. Because we have very strong, at least the civil society is becoming more active. If you disclose it, we can trace it. I mean, all of us are present in one constituency or the other. You see, you have a constituency office there, you are paying so much, you have so much staff. These things are verifiable.
So it's interesting that point you raised. So having seen this breakdown, that of the Senate, the House, National Assembly management, which not a lot of people focus on, 14.9 billion, and then you have the National Legislative Institute. But if we flip to the next one, that constituency project you spoke about, and it turns out that forms part of the capital expenditure of the National Assembly. Look at that in the Senate, for instance, 4.430 billion, and then recurrent 1.856 billion. So this capital expenditure, it's a big one,
well, it is not clear exactly. That is why the details are important. It is not clear exactly what this means. Whether it is the vehicles they want to buy, whether they want to erect more buildings in the National Assembly, whether they want to expand the National Legislative Institutes, all those are not yet clear. And that is why the details are important. Because I know that the constituency projects are part of the normal budget.
Is it that it's part or
part of the bigger budget, you mean?
Yes.
Part of the bigger budget.
Yes, it's part of the bigger budget.
What about the funds for it? Is the funds for it also part of the bigger budget?
Yes. The constituency projects are actually executed by the MDAs. They are executed by the ministries, not by the National Assembly. But they insert it there so that, because of the nature of our democracy, if you are a lawmaker, you can't go back to your constituency and be telling them how well you are contributing to debates or how much bills you have passed. They will ask you, what have you done for us?
And that's the reality.
They want to see, that's the reality of the democracy. You go to a village, you can't tell them that you move a motion or you pass a bill or you are doing this. No. They want to see boreholes. They want to see roads that you have influenced. They want to see hospitals that you have brought to the constituency. That again creates challenges even for them. Because you also need to maintain your base for you to be able to remain there.
Talk to us about this National Assembly management, 14.9 billion.
Well, they also have a whole bureaucracy in the National Assembly. Because one disadvantage that the National Assembly also has is that it is the youngest of all the arms of government. You must realize that. Since independence, we have always had the bureaucracy, the ministries, the MDAs. We have always had the judiciary. But effectively, this National Assembly structure started in 1999, essentially. So in terms of growth, in terms of maturity, they are also disadvantaged in a way. So they are also just emerging. Unfortunately, again, because of some of their conduct, they also attract a lot of criticism, scrutiny, and all of that. But we have to also realize that it's an institution and it's the youngest of the democratic institutions that are just emerging.
It's a valid point you made, when you say there's a lot of focus and people are of this impression that the federal budget will solve the whole problem.
Yeah.
It's only a certain percentage. And
of
the
course.
states have a big role to play if we were to move the economy in the right direction that this government wants it to be.
Of course. I mean, the economy is a 100 trillion naira economy. The budget is 7.4 trillion, going by what was approved. That's just about 6 or 7% of the GDP. What impact can that make? And of the 7.4 trillion, almost 60 or 70% is going into recurrent expenditure. Actually 70%, yes. 30% is for capital. And if you go through the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, they're talking about $30 billion expenditure on infrastructure annually for 10 years for us to make a big impact on infrastructure.
You know,
the entire budget, is it even up to $30 billion US?